went too far. It's too excessive.
Yep.
Too prepared to use force. And Barack Obama overcorrected, and we're paying a terrible price for it right now. And if he does not change, if he does not do what every other president does, what Bill Clinton did, what FDR did, what Ronald Reagan did, what George W. Bush did, and learn from his past mistakes, if he stays isolated in a bubble, there will be a tremendous price for America. I'm not saying to go invade the Middle East. I'm saying to get out of your defensive crouch and get out of your bubble and figure out what's going on here and start connecting the dots. It's frightening as hell. And if I had met one ambassador across the world, if I'd met one world leader across the world that wasn't scared as hell at how the United States is responding to this threat, I wouldn't be speaking this way, because I always assume the president and the president's advisors know a hell of a lot more about stuff than those of us that don't get the intel reports.
Well,
but I am hearing this from around the globe. This is really, really bad. And America's response is scaring the hell out of the world.
Well, you mentioned history's assessment, and history's assessment will certainly, the headline of history's assessment will be that George W. Bush broke the Middle East by invading Iraq. That's where it begins. Today, where we're at, and you have to feel some sense of sympathy for this administration, for the President of the United States, because clearly the underpinning of what's happening here is the complete inability of the Iraqi army to defend their own country. Anbar province is gone. It is gone. We are, no doubt, over the next several months, going to have to introduce more troops on the ground.
But Anbar province was gone. Anbar province was gone before. Yes, George W. Bush broke the Middle East. Also, David Petraeus, American troops. A lot of people when George W. Bush got drubbed in 2006, in his second midterm, they self-corrected and they won Anbar province back.
They did, Joe. But
so and that required George W. Bush to do what pissed off a lot of generals in the Pentagon and find a general named David Petraeus and work around them. Bob Woodward documented this and do things that, you know what, he had to get his comfort zone. It's just not enough to say George W. Bush broke it and now, well, gee, that gives Barack Obama a free pass. I'm not saying you're saying that. There are some of his supporters that were saying that.
The surge under Bush and General Petraeus, the surge worked. But what did it work as? It wasn't a victory.
It staved off defeat.
That's right. That's exactly what it did. It held back the forces that are now in play.
We held Anbar province. Would we rather hold Anbar province, or would we rather have ISIS hold Anbar province? And at some point, Barack Obama and his people are going to have to admit they really screwed up by getting out of Iraq as quickly as possible. This is what the 2012 election was about. They need to admit they screwed up. They moved out too quickly. He was just as ideological getting out as George W. Bush was ideological getting in.
They should have said we're in an endless situation and we're going to need to be endlessly engaged.
They should have negotiated much stronger with the Iraqi government then in place to maintain a true presence in Iraq.
One other element, sorry, Mike, one other element to point out on Veterans Day today is that 1,500 more advisors are going in, U.S. troops going into Iraq now. That's a political decision from Washington and when it's talked about in these shows, but that's 1,500 families. Again,
I know.
We're going to go through this again and worry whether their husband or their daughter or their wife is going to come back alive.
And so can I ask, Harold, why is it, and I don't want American troops to go back to war, all right, but you got to make some uncomfortable decisions. And